What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tones Overthinks It, the show where I think too much to make up for the people who don't think at all. You know, a question that's come to mind many times over the years as I look at frauditors is who supports them? I mean, what kind of a person looks upon what they do and not only doesn't seem to have a problem with it, but finds it appealing and seeks to encourage it? I mean, any sensible person that would see these people being incredibly aggressive, harassing, condescending, lacking in empathy, and just, well, plainly acting like a child, you know, would be horrified by this, would be very much repulsed by it. And yet somehow these guys have managed to build massive followings. Now, I could go into more about how there's a huge disparity between the sheer size of these followings and the number of views they get, implying the use of paid bots, but there still are actual people who watch these guys. There are people who leave in the comments section things that when you read, you think to yourself, like, how could this person be completely disconnected from reality and perceive things in a way that the rest of us don't? And interestingly enough, there may in fact be some science to answer that question. First, a shout out to News Now Enemy for being the one who found this information, and of course a shout out to one of my wonderful viewers and channel members, Judy LaPointe, for bringing it to my attention. News Now Enemy uncovered a study from the University of Chicago which was titled Atypical Empathetic Responses in Adolescents with Aggressive Conduct Disorder, a Functional MRI Investigation. Yeah, try saying that 10 times fast, but if you want a more simplified title, the article also labels it as Bullies May Enjoy Seeing Others in Pain. Brain scans show disruption in natural empathetic response. The long and short of the study was that they took two groups. One was a control group of just typical adolescents, and the other ones were known to have aggressive conduct disorder. What is aggressive conduct disorder? Glad you asked. Fessington, if you will.
Conduct disorder refers to a group of behavioral and emotional problems characterized by a disregard for others. Children with conduct disorder have a difficult time following rules and behaving in a socially acceptable way. Conduct disorder is characterized by aggression toward others and a callous disregard for their rights and needs. Adolescents and teens with conduct disorder can find acts of aggression, deceit, and coercion to be gratifying.
Ah, that's fascinating. You wouldn't happen to have any notable examples of this kind of behavior that we might find familiar, would you?
Yes, absolutely. The behavior that meets the criteria for conduct disorder includes bullying or threatening behavior, physical aggression, cruelty toward people or animals, trespassing, lying, cheating, and stealing. Many young people with conduct disorder will have trouble feeling and expressing empathy or remorse. They struggle to show emotion toward others and will be unable to succeed either in school or in their community while blaming others for their poor performance.
Thank you, Fessington. I'm sure there couldn't possibly be anyone we know who exhibits that kind of behavior. So as I said, the study involved a group of people with this disorder as well as a group of people without it. These adolescents were then subjected to an MRI scan while watching animated visual stimuli depicting other people experiencing pain or not experiencing pain. Furthermore, these situations involved either an individual whose pain was caused by accident or an individual whose pain was inflicted on purpose by another person. This allowed scientists to see what parts of the brain lit up the most when observing this form of stimuli. You'll be interested to know that with the individuals who are part of the control group who are known to not have conduct disorder, when shown any kind of imagery involving a person having harm inflicted upon them by another, the scan showed activity in the portions of the brain that are connected to moral reasoning and social interaction. There was also activity shown in the pain centers of the brain. This kind of brain activity is a typical response to an individual who has some form of empathy. This pattern was consistent across multiple studies. Now, when it came time to test those who suffer from conduct disorder, the brain scans actually revealed the polar opposite. Portions of the brain that are associated with reward processing and pleasure centers actually lit up more so than the aforementioned sections in the control group, indicating that to these people, the sight of watching someone inflict harm on another person was actually a pleasurable and rewarding experience.
Everybody got that?
Now, while it does go without saying that bullies do naturally find pleasure in bringing harm upon others, it tells us that they do it because their brain is wired to do it. They are pre-programmed to not feel empathy when someone has harm brought upon them, and if anything, see joy in it. So in doing so, they don't see the clear immorality in these actions, because their brain doesn't tell them it's immoral. And while this study consisted primarily with adolescents, where conduct disorder is found more apparent, we have to consider the fact that there are some people who never outgrow their adolescence. Adults can be childish. It happens. Now, having learned this information and considering the sheer size of the frauditor community and their audience, my natural conclusion was, of course,
I knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes.
But let's explore the second half of this question of who supports frauditors. Just how big is their support base? And if you actually take a step back and really see how big it is in the grand scheme of things, it may surprise you. So let's assume for a moment that every single subscriber that a frauditor has on their channel is a real person and not a bot. That every one of those numbers represents an individual out there who probably has conduct disorder and revels in the sight of these individuals dispensing misery upon the human race. So let's start with, and I'm heavily using finger quotes when I say this, the most popular frauditor, Long Island Audits, with a subscriber count of 543,000 people. Now, that may seem like a lot. And yeah, it is a lot. It's over 500,000 people. 500,000 people who share in Sean Paul Reyes's ideology and his opinions. They all share in a belief that every level of the justice system and all government officials at every level are corrupt, that anyone who's criticizing their actions is anti-American and anti-freedom, and that they're the only people in the world who are right while everyone else is wrong.
Mugs, pugs, thugs, nitwits, halfwits, dimwits.
Well, let's take that group now and put it into some perspective. As of 2021, the estimated population of the United States was 331,900,000 people. So, when you compare that to Long Island Audit's 543,000 subscribers, that position accounts for 0.16% of the American people. Yeah, 0.16%. That's it. That is all of Long Island Audit's support base, which means the other 99.84% either doesn't agree with him or doesn't even know who the heck he is. That is the true scale of a frauditor's significance. And bear in mind, that's one of the larger channels. Let's talk about a few that don't reach that height. Joshua Abrams, who claims to be a pure American patriot, who you'd think would have the support of many freedom-loving Americans, has 142,000 subscribers, which accounts for 0.04%. Christopher Cordova, aka Denver Metro Cardigan, has 86.6 thousand subscribers. That accounts for 0.02% of the American people. Now, I doubt any of them will actually watch this, but if they should, just know that you think you're significant, you think you're making an impact, you think that you're important, but the numbers don't lie. Your fan base is so insignificant, any agenda you might have is going to be dead on arrival. I mean, there are more people in this world invested in the outcome of a fictitious war against singing heads in toilets than there are about your so-called crusade to protect free speech. Now, before anyone says, well, Tones, your audience isn't exactly big, and you're right, it's not. The difference is, though, my audience is more closer in line with the rest of the American people who don't agree with frauditors. I don't have to convince anyone that what a frauditor is doing is wrong. That's already a natural conclusion amongst most of the people in this world who have any sense of empathy. People like Reyes, Abrams, and Cordova, they have this fantasy of a world that's more appealing to them, where they have more free reign to do what they want without consequences. But with less than 1% of the American people finding that world as ideal as they do, that's never going to come. They're wasting their lives trying to achieve a utopia just for them that nobody wants. So they just continue doing what they do because, as I said, dispensing misery on others is the only way that they can find pleasure in their existence. It's really all they have, because the reality that they're never going to change the world into something that's going to absolve them of their past crimes or justify their actions. So they're just going to keep doubling down on this and get as much of a high out of it as they can before it all comes to a grinding halt. And consider for a moment that of the three names I mentioned, one of them has already been convicted and is awaiting sentencing that may be more severe because they can't stop doing this. Another just got arrested and possibly will be facing their own consequences. And the third one, well, let's just say when karma finally hits them, it's going to be earth-shattering. And while the end of the road for them may or may not be right around the corner, one thing's for sure, in the grand scheme of things, they lost long ago. Because the fact is, the only people who like them, who give them the adoration and support they so desperately need, is, and always has been, a tiny margin of people in this world who just happen to be screwed up in the head. But then again, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like what you see here and you want to see even more in the future, please consider subscribing to my channel. Also, feel free to share your thoughts down in the comment section. I always love to read them. Till next time. Oh, and just in case anyone was wondering, Broken System, Broken Trust with his 18,700 subscribers, 0.005%.